Hello everybody, my name is Sheila or SL Reads, and this video is about the books that I am currently reading. I have been reading most of these books for like a long time. The books that stay on my currently reading list are like books where for some reason I'm not that interested in them, and I'm currently debating whether to bring them to college with me or not, which is why they were not featured in my previous video about books I was bringing with me to college, so maybe I brought these with too. I honestly wanted to finish all of these books before I went to college because I knew I wasn't going to be here and I wasn't going to be able to bring that many books with me, even though, as you can see, I brought a large amount anyways. Not to say that any of these books are bad, I just had issues staying, interested, and they were not able to captivate my attention all that well, or they weren't able to hold it for, a long time. There's only 4 books on this list, and it's soon going to go down to 3 because I have to give one back to somebody. I'm going to start with the book that I started the most recently, and that is The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. I borrowed this book from my future roommate's sister, and I don't know. Parts of it are interesting and parts of it are not, and this one I feel like I'm not going to be able to finish, even though it currently is on my currently reading list, because I only have a week until I move down to school, and I don't know. I'm not that interested in it. I'm just finding it hard to want to read this book. It kind of reminds me of the game Skyrim for some reason, just with the fantasy aspects or the time period aspects of this book. I do love that video game, but this book, I don't know. Maybe it's that I'm trying to read it really fast right now and it's not really working for me at the current moment. I don't really know. This book, as you can probably tell from the title, is about a boy who is chosen along with 3 other boys to possibly become the fake prince so that the kingdom that they live in does not go into turmoil because the royal family has no heirs. I hopefully will finish this. I'm only on page 93. Maybe I'll be able to finish it in the next week and then be able to give it back to the girl who I borrowed it from. But really, I feel like I'm definitely not going to finish with the rest of the series, but this is one of my currently reading. I'm not saying I'm not going to finish it by choice, more like I don't have time to finish it. The next book that I'm currently reading is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. There are 2 reasons that I picked up this book. One is, as it says on the cover, it became a TV show. And I started watching the show and I thought it was really good and I wanted to see what the book was like. Because I knew there were books and I knew that there were a lot of books. And so I thought, why not pick it up? It's pretty interesting. The only issue I'm having is that it is a lot slower than the show, I think. Things that I really like about the show are the soundtrack. Also, it just has a different feel. The other reason that I picked up this book is because of another booktuber, a Book Utopia, or Sasha Alsberg. She never stops talking about Outlander. It's one of her favorite series. She loves Scotland, and I love watching her videos, and so that is the second reason why I decided to pick this up. These books are absolutely huge. This is the size of a Game of Thrones book, but instead of being about 200 characters, it is about a single character named Claire Fraser. And for those of you who don't know what this book is about time travel. This woman, Claire Randall, was a nurse in World War II, and the book takes place immediately following the war, and so she is going on a second honeymoon with her husband. Since they have not seen each other in a long time, they want to get to know each other again because he was also in the war. He worked more in intelligence while she worked as a combat nurse. And they go on vacation to Scotland for the second honeymoon. So she ends up traveling back in time to the year 1743. It is obviously a huge change for her. She's very confused what's going on because that doesn't make any sense. Time travel is something that people don't really think exists, or that couldn't possibly exist just from touching some stones, which is how she gets there. It is largely a romance, so it is this bit of difficulty for Claire because she is married in the present day of 1945, but so she is torn between her husband, Frank, and this new man that she meets, James Fraser, who is one of the people who is trying to protect her in this strange new world. And it's pretty interesting. Honestly, I enjoy it, but it's just such a long book. It does have some differences from the show, and so, I don't know, I don't know if it was what I was expecting. Part of me really wants to finish this book and continue on with the series, but they are really huge, and they're pretty expensive because they're, the biggest books ever, besides Game of Thrones. So I was on page 456 in this book, according to Goodreads, which means that I do still have a pretty good chunk left to go. Maybe I'll be able to pick it up when I come back for winter break. Maybe that'll be a good time to read this. I'm trying to get the vibe of when I want to read this book. Another book that I've been reading for such a long time is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have no idea why it's taking me so long to get to this book. So according to Goodreads, since I lost the bookmark in this book too somehow, I am 131 pages into this book. I don't understand why I'm having such an issue with it. I love all of the adaptations of this book that I've seen. I've seen the 2005 movie with Keira Knightley, and I have seen the Lizzie Bennet Diaries on YouTube, and I loved both of those. Like, I seriously adored those. Since I'm thinking of declaring an English minor in college, maybe I will have to read this in college. That will actually give me the incentive to finish it, because I'm really not that far into it. And I feel like the reason it was so hard for me to read it was because it was a little slow at the beginning or something. I seriously have not picked this up for like 2 or 3 years. Like, the thing is I love Shakespeare, and like that's way harder to read than this. And so I'm just trying to figure out, like, maybe it's hard for me to read because most of the classic books that I have read have been in a school setting. I'm pretty sure that there are Austen classes that I could take in college, and then I would have to read this one and probably more of her books. I seriously do not get why it's so hard for me to read this when I do know, like, at least the major plot points from watching the movies and the web series. And I know that's not a good thing to say, is like, oh, like it's just like the movie, but it's such a well-loved story that, like, I don't think people would love the movie as much if it was nothing like the book. I've been reading it for so long, and I literally haven't even actually read any in so long, but it's still on my currently reading list. The last book that I am currently reading is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is one of the most recent books, other than The False Prince, which was the first book that I featured in this video. It is one of the most recent books that I have tried to read. Again, I don't understand why I can't finish any of these. This one, I think I hit a point in the book that you're supposed to be uncomfortable about. This book does deal with police brutality, and it also deals with a character named Star Carter, who is kind of stuck between 2 different worlds. She lives in a kind of low-income neighborhood, but she goes to a private school that is mainly populated by white students. And so she has to deal with these 2 different, like, parts of herself. Like, it's kind of like neither of the people are really her. She's trying to find herself, but she also has to deal with this awful event, watching one of her friends get killed by a police officer. This book came at a very important time when police brutality is such an issue in this country. So many people are trying to ignore it when it is still a thing, and that is the reason I wanted to pick this up, because I know about police brutality from seeing it on the news and seeing it in articles when people are talking about it, but I wanted to see this book from this girl's perspective who knew someone. And I thought maybe it would be eye-opening. I thought it would help me understand more of the issue. This book is my sister's, so I also do not think I will be bringing it with me to college, and I really want to finish this. Oh, I didn't realize this was on the back. It's like a guy. That's so cool. This book, again, I am only like 100 pages into, and I feel like I have to get past this point in which I'm uncomfortable. Like, you're supposed to be uncomfortable because she is struggling with keeping these secrets about who she is, like, from her friends at her school who will not understand what it is like to be in her shoes. And I know that's a point that you're supposed to be uncomfortable at, and I clearly am. I just have to get past that somehow. So those are all the books that I'm currently reading. I'm obviously going to start a bunch of books soon. Those at least are the books that I'm still going to be currently reading in like 6 months probably. I have an entire shelf of books to read, and I feel like I'm always like, oh, let me just like pick up this new book instead of going back to these books that I have not fully committed to clearly. These are all marked as currently reading on Goodreads. I really wanted to finish them before I went to school, or like before this year, or like before anything, but unfortunately I still have not finished any of them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read these books or if you had similar issues reading these books. I'd love to know that I'm not the only one who's awful at reading sometimes, but I do hope you enjoyed. I will see you soon. Bye!